Welcome to the MOOC course on Controlled Drug Delivery System, which is Unit 1 of Novel Drug Delivery System BP 704T. Myself, Dr. Chitra Gupta, Associate Professor, Department of Pharmacy, Lloyd Institute of Management and Technology. In my last lecture, I had been discussing about the various approaches used in designing controlled drug delivery systems. And the two main approaches that we had discussed were dissolution controlled systems and diffusion controlled systems. In dissolution controlled systems, we saw that the rate of drug release from the system was basically dissolution rate dependent. And in diffusion controlled system, the rate of drug release was diffusion rate dependent. And we described the rate with the help of two equations, Noyes-Whitney equation in case of dissolution controlled systems, and in case of diffusion controlled systems, it could be described with the help of Fick's law of diffusion. And then we said that the two possibilities are there, that we can fabricate these systems as reservoir types or matrix types of systems. Going on to the third approach for making controlled drug delivery systems, these are called as dissolution and diffusion controlled release systems. Here the rate of drug release depends both on dissolution rate as well as diffusion rate, and this is accomplished by coating the drug particles by enclosing the drug reservoir inside a polymeric coating, and this polymeric coating is basically a mixture of two different types of polymers, such that one of the polymers is water soluble and the other polymer is water insoluble. When such a system containing the reservoir of drug coated with polymer like this is placed inside a dissolution medium or inside the body, the polymer, which is water soluble, will dissolve and give rise to pores in the membrane. You can see these gaps in the polymeric coat. These gaps are due to dissolution of water soluble polymers, and these pores will then act as channels, allowing the water or the dissolution medium to permeate into the drug reservoir. Once water is able to enter this drug reservoir, it will dissolve the drug, and then the dissolved drug will diffuse out of this reservoir into the bulk of the system. So, this is how the drug release rate will depend upon dissolution and diffusion process. The rate of drug release R is dependent upon the area, the surface area available for diffusion, the diffusivity coefficient of the drug, and the concentration gradient across this membrane, this one delta C, right, and it is inversely proportional to the thickness of the polymeric coat, which is depicted by L here, this thickness, the thickness of the polymeric coat. So, this is how we attain dissolution and diffusion control release systems. Examples of polymers used here are a mixture of ethyl cellulose and polyvinyl pyrrolidone, where polyvinyl pyrrolidone will be water soluble polymer, ethyl cellulose will be water insoluble polymer. Another mechanism for making controlled drug delivery systems are water penetration control release systems. Here the rate control is obtained by penetration of water into the system, and there can be two different mechanisms for this: swelling controlled systems and osmotically controlled systems. The name itself is implying swelling controlled systems will be based on solubility of the polymer, whereas osmotically controlled systems will depend upon osmotic pressure. So, let us have a look at these two systems. Swelling controlled systems These are basically dry dosage forms which contain soluble polymer which is hydrophilic in nature, and drug is homogeneously dispersed in this polymeric matrix. As this system comes in contact with water, the polymer will swell up or imbibe water. The swelling of polymer leads to increase in the size of pores within the polymer, and these pores basically acts as aqueous channels through which water can diffuse into the polymeric matrix, dissolve the drug, and then the solution of drug can easily diffuse out of the polymeric matrix. The polymer mesh size gradually increases progressively due to swelling, allowing easy diffusion of the drug. I have tried to explain this with the help of this diagram. You can see that these swelling controlled systems, once they are placed in contact with water and they have imbibed water, the first and the foremost thing that happens is the size of the dosage form is tremendously increased. And why this is increased? Because water imbibement creates pores within the matrix, right. Further, during the drug release process, we can identify or define 3 different zones within the system. The innermost zone or zone 1, that is basically the swelling control system comprising of dry polymer in glassy state, and the drug is dispersed in this dry polymer intact. The red color depicts undissolved drug here. Now, the second zone, outer to the innermost zone 1, the second zone, zone 2, that comprises of polymer which has gelled up or swelled up, right, and this polymer contains drug both in dissolved as well as dispersed state. The dispersed drug particles are shown with the help of red dots, and the pink color indicates the drug which has dissolved in this. Then the outermost zone, which is the gel layer, is the dissolved drug layer. Basically, the drug is in solution state in this layer, and now the drug is ready for diffusion into the outer environment. As the dissolution progresses, drug release progresses, what happens? These layers thickness gradually changes. The zone 3 will broaden out and zone 1 will keep on shrinking as the drug release progresses. Further, we can each zone can be marked with the help of a front, can be defined as a front. So, zone 1 is enclosed inside what is called as swelling front, because it is at this level that swelling is going to progress. Zone 2 is defined with the help of what is called as the diffusion front, because here the drug is diffusing from zone 2 into zone 3. So, this is called as the diffusion front, and the outermost zone is defined by the erosion front, because here the polymer may erode as well as the drug will move out into the external environment of the body. So, this is how these swelling control systems are active. Next, we have osmotically controlled release systems. This system consists of an osmotically active core which contains the drug enclosed in a semi-permeable membrane, such that the semi-permeable membrane is made up of a biocompatible polymer, right, and the system has an orifice in it, a small opening in it, which is called as the drug delivery orifice. So, the drug inside the system is such that the drug is osmotically active. If the drug happens to be osmotically inactive, it can be mixed with an osmotically active agent like sodium chloride, so that it becomes osmotically active. Now, due to the semi-permeability of the membranous coat, when this system is placed inside the dissolution medium, water will permeate across the semi-permeable membrane into the drug core, and it will dissolve the drug there. And once this drug solution is created inside, due to osmotic gradient, the drug will be pumped out through the delivery orifice. So, the drug solution will come out of the delivery orifice. So, since osmosis is the basis for such systems, or the osmotic gradient is leading to drug release, they are defined as osmotically controlled release systems. Another important approach is the ion exchange systems. Ion exchange systems because they rely on exchange of ions. So, these systems provide controlled release of basically ionic drugs or ionizable drugs. So, one of the prerequisites for the ion exchange systems is that the drug should be either ionizable or should be in ionic state. Further, these systems make use of what are called as resins, which are used as drug carriers. Now, why resins are only used? Because resins are resistant to acidic and alkaline medium. They are stable and insoluble in acidic and alkaline medium, and when we are formulating a controlled drug delivery system for gastrointestinal administration, the substrate used should be resistant to acidic and alkaline medium. It has to encounter the variations in pH throughout the GIT. So, basically resins are being used because they are resistant to acidic and alkaline medium, and secondly, most importantly, they contain ionizable groups on their surface such that these ionizable groups can be exchanged with ionic drug molecules. So, you can see here that the drug can be adsorbed onto the resin surface to form a complex, and these complexes are called as resinates. These resinates, when they enter the GIT, they will exchange the drug for the corresponding ions. This is the ion present in the GIT, and this can be exchanged for negatively charged drug particles, so that this ion gets linked up with resin in exchange of the drug, and we get the free drug here. So, this is the point of exchange. The drug is being released and this ion is being replaced. So, these are the ion exchange resin system. If we talk of the preparation, it is comparatively very simple. First, the drug is adsorbed onto the ionized surface of the resin, and the resinate or this drug resin complex is then coated with a water permeable polymer. Then this system is spray dried. This leads to hardening of the polymeric coat. Now, the system is ready. Now, when it is introduced in the body, it will exchange the ions due to the permeability of the coating material. The drug release rate from these drug resin complex, that is affected by the ionic environment, that is the pH, the electrolyte concentration and the properties of the resins. The diffusion rate of the drug from these resins will depend upon the area of diffusion, diffusion path length and rigidity of the resin. Higher the area of diffusion available, faster will be the drug release. Lesser the diffusion path length, the faster will be the drug release, and rigidity of the present basically implies the porosity of the resin. More porous the resin, better will be the permeability of the resin to the dissolution medium. Advantages of these use systems: they are particularly useful for delivering labile drugs, drugs which are acid or basic labile, or they are unstable at in the presence of certain enzymes. That type of drugs can be supplied as ion exchange resins, because the drug is complexed with the resin and will be stable, will not be attacked by the enzymes or the acids, it is in change form. The limitations, if we talk, the release rate of the drug is proportional to the ionic concentration in the vicinity. That is, the presence of ions in the gastrointestinal fluid will have direct bearing on the rate of drug release, because the drug will be exchanged for ions present in the GIT, and this ionic concentration in turn depends upon the diet, the water intake and other intestinal contents. So, it cannot be made totally independent of the external environment encountered by the system. Going on to the types of ion exchange systems, we have two different types, because the drugs are also of two types. We have got cationic drugs and anionic drugs. For cationic drugs, we will make use of cation exchange resins, which will themselves be anionic in nature, right. Similarly, for anionic drugs, we will make use of anion exchange resin, such that the resin itself is cationic in nature. So, look at this. Here I have given an example of a cationic drug being transferred by means of an ion exchange resin. The anionic ion exchange resin with a sulfonyl group on its surface is combined with the cationic drug to form a drug resin complex. Now, this drug cation is exchanged in the GIT for the H plus ions present there, such that the free drug is released here and H plus ions are complexed with the resin instead of the drug. Similarly, in case of an anionic drug, we can make use of a strongly basic quaternary ammonium anion exchange resin, right. So, it has been shown here, and then the anionic drug would be exchanged with the chloride ions of the GIT here. So, that the chloride will form a complex with the resin and free drug will be released from the resin surface. So, here an anionic drugs are complexed with a cationic ion exchange resin, right, one with a trimethyl ammonium group or any other basic quaternary ammonium group. Next, we have chemically controlled system. Chemically controlled systems are basically such systems which will undergo some chemical changes when they come in contact with biological fluids. So, two types of systems are possible here. We have got erodible system and we have got pendant systems, right. Erodible means breaking down. So, here basically in erodible system, the polymer is such that large polymer can degrade by hydrolysis into smaller biocompatible compounds when it comes in contact with biological fluids, and this erosion can be bulk erosion or surface erosion. So, erodible systems can be further of two types. that is bulk erodible systems or surface erodible systems. Now, what is the difference between bulk erosion and surface erosion? So, let us understand this with the help of diagrams. Supposing this is the polymer matrix in which the drug is dispersed. So, these dots indicate the drug. In bulk erosion, the polymer will be hydrolyzed not only at the surface, but from interiors also, like this, and internal pores will be created in the system. These indicate basically the pores in the polymer matrix, right. So, these pores will allow the water or the dissolution fluid to penetrate into the matrix and dissolve drug and cause the drug release. Whereas, in surface erosion system, the erosion happens only at the surface. Here the erosion was happening in bulk of the polymeric matrix. So, this was bulk erosion. In surface erosion, the drug will be released only from the surface. The polymer will erode only at the surface, like this, while the middle portion will be intact. So, this is surface erosion. The drug release will be directly proportional to the surface area available for erosion. Another type of chemically controlled release systems are the pendant systems. Pendant systems are so called because here the drug hangs on to the polymeric backbone just like a pendant. So, we have a backbone of the polymer. This is the polymer backbone, and drug is held on to this polymeric backbone with the help of certain bonds which are hydrolyzable bonds. Inside the body, these bonds will be hydrolyzed to release the free drugs, right. They will be cleaved off from the polymeric backbone. So, these are the pendant systems. Next, we have pH independent system, another important approach, because our gastrointestinal tract has several limitations for drug release. The tract exhibits a great variability in pH and enzyme composition along its entire length, due to which the drug release from a dosage form is variable during along the length of the GIT. Moreover, the drugs are weak acids or weak bases. So, their ionization will depend upon the pH, their solubilization will depend upon the pH. We have seen earlier how Henderson-Hasselbalch equation can help us in finding out whether the drug would be dissolved or undissolved at a particular pH value, a drug with what will be the fate of drug with a given pKa value. So, we can say that under normal circumstances, such controlled drug delivery systems will be showing pH dependent release of the drug because of two reasons: the variation in the gastrointestinal pH along the length, and secondly because the drugs are weak acids or weak bases which exhibit pH dependent ionization pattern. Now, this effect of pH can be avoided by making use of pH independent systems, because in case of designing controlled drug delivery systems, our primary aim is to have a drug release at such a rate that a constant plasma level is maintained in the body for the desired duration of the therapy. So, a very important approach of making pH independent systems is making use of buffered tablets. You must have heard of buffered aspirin tablets giving better bioavailability, right. Now, what are these buffer tablets? These are similar to simple tablets, but some buffering agent is incorporated during granulation phase. The buffering agent that is incorporated may be amino acids, citric acids, phthalic acids, phosphoric acid salts or tartaric acid salts, right, so that they can render their buffering action. What is done? The acid or basic drug is mixed with this buffering agent and they are granulated together. Now, these granules are coated with GI fluid permeable membrane. Now, when this system goes inside the body, the permeable membrane will allow the gastrointestinal fluid to go into the granules, where due to the presence of buffer, the pH of the dissolution medium will be appropriately adjusted because of this buffer action, and the drug dissolution as well as drug release will occur normally independent of the pH. Next, we have hydrogel preparations. Hydrogels are water soluble 3-dimensional structures composed of hydrophilic polymers. These gels are basically characterized by extensive cross-linking, which imparts integrity to this network, and this cross-linking may be occurring due to chemical or physical cross-linkages like crystallites, entanglements, hydrogen bonds or van der Waals forces. Now, due to this extensive cross-linking or gel-like network, they will exhibit slow release of highly dissolving drugs. Secondly, they will offer protection to hydrolyzable type or unstable drug molecules like peptides, proteins and labile molecules. So, they are extensively used for delivery of peptides, proteins and labile drugs, and these hydrogels may be of 4 different types. First one, environmental responsive hydrogels. They are also called as stimuli responsive hydrogels. Here the polymer is not in a gel state initially, rather on getting appropriate stimulus or encountering particular environment, the polymer will gel up in situ and exhibit slow drug release. Then we have chemically controlled hydrogels similar to the chemically controlled systems, swelling controlled and diffusion controlled, all similar to the previous mechanisms discussed earlier. Lastly, we have altered density formulations. These basically act by mechanism of prolonging the residence time of the drug in GIT. One major limitation of gastrointestinal tract is the residence time of the dosage form, which is restricted to 8 to 12 hours. So, even if we imagine a drug release for 24 hours, the system will not be there in the body for more than 12 hours. What do? We prolong the residence time of the dosage form in the body by formulating it as altered density formulations, and one of the approaches is floating drug delivery systems, such that the drug delivery system will float on the surface of intestinal fluid and will slowly release the drug and will remain there for a longer duration of time, more than 8 to 12 hours. These floating drug delivery systems are so important that they have been kept in 3rd unit of your syllabus and will be discussed in details there. So, these are all the approaches for designing controlled drug delivery preparations. With that, thank you very much for your patient listening.